Welcome to the Unstuck podcast. I'm your host, Sean Miner. This weekly no-fluff mindset show arms you with the practical tools you need to get unstuck so you can get exactly what you want out of life. Remember, when you change your mind, your life will follow. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck podcast. Thanks for being here today. I'm Sean. I'm your host today and every day on Unstuck. So happy to be here with you and to talk a little bit more about your intuition, something I love to talk about. I think you guys know that by now. One of the best superpowers, really, probably the best superpower we have in every single one of us is the ability to tap into our intuition and to listen to it and to be guided by it. And I still think there's not enough of us doing it, to be perfectly honest. So today I'm going to kind of give you a reminder about that little sense, that little inner voice you have within you, and give you some questions to ask it, to ask your inner voice or your intuition or your inner guidance system, all these things I call it. And I'll probably be calling it more than that even in today's episode. So just go along with me. You'll get it and see what we can come up with, see what comes out of this experience when you really do tap in to your intuition. So we're going to get to that shortly. First of all, I want to tell you that I am recording in a new space. For those of you that follow me on Instagram and check out my Instagram stories, to be honest, that's really where I share pretty much everything these days. It's just kind of the place to be. So if you don't follow me over there, make sure to do so. Sean Miner on Instagram, and then check out that little ring around my circle picture and you'll connect with me on stories. And I also chat with everyone that sends me a message over there, so we can chat if you'd like. But anyway, if you've been following me over there, then you know I recently manifested a much better office space for me and my partner. We were in an office space for about a year and a half that was actually in kind of like a office pod in a much bigger office building, but we had this little office pod probably of about 8 to 10 offices, and they were mainly lawyers and actually mainly divorce lawyers. And just the vibe, I'm sure you can imagine, people coming in and needing to connect with those lawyers, and the lawyers themselves was stressful and a little bit negative. And there's a lot of yelling going on and swearing and just a lot of stuff that we were around that didn't really vibe with us and what we do and our businesses. So we kind of just made it work, and we were there for a year and a half, never put up any pictures on the walls, never decorated, never made it cozy, never brought in plants, nothing. We just put our desks up and just went to work. And, by divine intervention, they decided to move the pod, asked us to go along with them. The offices they were looking at, I went along to check them out, were even worse than that. Like, there's no way I could have done any sort of good, creative, high vibe work in those spaces. So we decided to cancel our time with them and pretty quickly had to find a new place, new office space. And so I began to visualize what I wanted our office space to look like, how I wanted it to feel, how I wanted to feel in that space, began journaling about it, all these things I talk about that I do when I actually end up manifesting something. I started putting that into place for this office space because we didn't have a lot of time. We started doing our Craigslist searches pretty much every day, looking for office space, and went to see several in person, and none of them were it. None of them were right. We were getting close to having to settle just because we needed to get out of that office by a specific time. And then, of course, the perfect one shows up. And I did have quite the criteria. I mean, it doesn't seem like it, but it was really actually quite hard to find. And then it had to be a certain price point. We had to be able to bring our dog Harlow because she loves to come with us to the office. She's such a good office buddy, but a lot of places, offices around here don't allow dogs, although it's probably one of the most dog-friendly places here in Boulder to live in the country at least. And we needed a lot of light because I film a lot of videos here and I do a lot of Zoom calls here in the office. We needed it to be quiet because obviously here I am on the podcast recording end of this and I need to have good quality sound. I need to not have background noises. And even in some of the episodes in the past, you guys may have heard some of the lawyers yelling through the walls. I would not be surprised. So I didn't want that. So it needed to have good acoustics, but also just needed to be quiet, neighbors around us. And of course, we wanted a good vibe. So this one came about at just the right time, perfect timing, perfect price point. Not only does it have enough light, we are literally 2 entire walls of straight windows. So tons of natural light. We refuse to turn on the overhead lights because it's just not good for your health and your circadian rhythm and all of that stuff. So we have tons of natural light. It's super quiet. It's actually again, it's a big office space, but is within this little office pod, again, probably, 15 offices, and it's in a holistic health space. So the people that are in here are massage therapists, actual psychotherapists, nutritionists, counselors, just the vibe, totally different. There's literally in every probably 10 feet of the entire hallway, there's sound machines that have white noise. So you just automatically feel super peaceful and calm as you're coming into this space. It's quiet. There's HEPA air filters in every office. There's filtered water. It's just wonderful. High vibe all around. So we actually moved in and then immediately started decorating. We brought in plants. We started putting things on the walls. We shopped for a rug. It's just totally different feel, and we feel so good in this office. Like, I can't wait to come here and sit down and get creative and get cozy and really just go after it. So I'm excited and I'm thrilled to be here. I hope you can tell, and I hope this sounds good. I hope you're getting some good quality podcast acoustics in this new space. Let me know if you don't, but I'm pretty sure you will. So that's been happening. Also, as some of you may know, I started a new project. I think I mentioned this in a few episodes back. Started a new project and am currently running through what's kind of known in the business space as the beta test round. I like to call it the founding member round, where I gather a group of people who are interested in the project, but are kind of ready to get in on the ground floor, be a little bit of the guinea pigs in a way, I guess you could say, to make sure that everything runs smoothly and just kind of be that group for me, be my second pair of eyes. And we started that this week with the Unstuck Entrepreneur. So specifically for entrepreneurs who are ready to get out of their own way and make an impact in the wellness space. So ready to stop playing small, ready to start putting themselves out there, or even expand beyond where they currently are and finally make an impact. And when it comes to Unstuck, we know, because of this podcast and because of the work we're doing here and because of the work we do in the Unstuck project, specifically as it relates to health and body and getting unstuck there, it comes down to that perfect combination of mindset, energy work, and then applying that to the practical, tangible steps of life. And in this case, it's business. In the Unstuck project, it's your health protocol, your healing protocol, your diet protocol, whatever it is. But you've got to do that mindset and energy work first, and then to the point where you're unstuck, and then apply it. And that's when we have this beautiful combination of things that actually work, instead of continuing to be on this hamster wheel or not doing anything at all because it's never worked before. So I'm really thrilled. I'm incredibly grateful and so honored to be working with those 22 women who are the founding members. It is absolutely phenomenal, totally blowing my mind, these ladies that are in there and their passions and their purpose and their education and their skill sets and their ability to truly make an impact, make the impact they're looking to make and fulfill that passion that they have. So I'm thrilled. I'm going to be dedicating the next 8 weeks, all of my energy, all of my love, all of my high vibes to that group and to making sure that they build their dream business and that they are very comfortable in their power. And then I'm going to do it again. So if you are someone who is either a current wellness entrepreneur or want to be in the future, are ready to take that next step, are ready to step into your own power and truly make an impact in the wellness of this world, then I'd love to have you. Hey, we're going to do it in mid-November. I'm going to do this again, especially for those people who are ready to make 2021 way better than 2020, which I think we all want that now, but are ready to make 2021 the year that you get out of your own way and you start following your dreams and start doing what you've been put on this planet to do, which is help people make an impact in wellness, have your dream business, make the income you deserve, all those good things. If you want that to be you, we're going to make sure by starting in mid-November that you're ready for 2021. Okay, so you can get on the waitlist, SeanMiner.com/entrepreneur waitlist. And I'll, of course, have that linked up in the show notes so you can head over there, put your name on the list, and we'll get started. We'll get started really soon, and you can be a part of this amazing crew. Now, one more thing really quickly about that. Yes, as you can see, I'm super passionate about this because it's something I see that's very either misconstrued or underrepresented or something within this business space. So I do really want to take this opportunity to tell the truth about entrepreneurship and set people up the right way. So that being said, I will be dedicating some specific Unstuck episodes to entrepreneurship, to business mindset, and the energetics and the spirituality that is required to be a success in your business and to live the life and have the business of your dreams if you are an entrepreneur or you want to be an entrepreneur. But what you will quickly see and realize if you are not in that space, if you are not an entrepreneur or don't ever want to have your own business, what you'll quickly see is those topics, while I'm directing them towards that type of person, still apply to every other aspect, just as all of the Unstuck episodes do. So while really the examples will be guided towards business ownership, the principles, the teachings, the homework assignments apply to everyone. So I would encourage you very highly to listen to those episodes too. I can guarantee with 100% certainty that you will get nuggets of wisdom that directly apply to you, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you ever have your own business or not, especially if you are someone who does want to excel and find success in a career path, or even if you want to have, a passion project, a side gig, a side hustle, something like that. You will absolutely find nuggets to apply to those situations. So I would still highly recommend you listen to the episodes that are geared to entrepreneurship. And you know what? I would not be surprised, and I would actually be very excited if those episodes got you thinking about, hey, maybe I could have my own business, or maybe I could even have my own side business, or maybe I could turn this passion project into a money-making opportunity. I would be thrilled with that. So there you go. Just, keep an open mind and have a listen and see what happens. All right, let's get into this week's topic, questions to ask your intuition. And of course, we're starting with a quote here from Steve Jobs, which I'm going to talk about that a little bit because I think that's really cool. So Steve Jobs says, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become. I want to bring up Steve Jobs because that just is so cool to hear someone of that caliber who created such a highly successful and impactful business and really was can be seen, I think, almost as sort of a robotic type of person or someone who maybe didn't have the most positive high vibe type of experience all the time, but still use his heart and intuition to guide him. And that is the case for so many other major business moguls and just really overall, even like very successful and highly recognized actors and athletes. And, these people that we see that have these high profile positions, there's a few things they have in common, one of which is the ability to use their intuition and to actually use that knowledge to take the next step. So I think that is something right there to where we should all be like, oh, maybe there is something to this other voice I have in my head that does want me to take risks, that does want me to go the route less traveled, who is okay with me not following this path that I thought I was on. Because we all have that voice, and some of us have it louder than others. Some of us listen to it, some of us don't. And so I really want to continue to bring up this topic here on Unstuck because I really want you all to start developing that sense a little deeper and start seeking your inner voice to make decisions, to answer questions that you can't quite figure out, to help you make the next move and to get out of your own way as well. So that's what we're going to do today. If this is the first time that you have heard me talk about intuition, I doubt it is, unless this is your first episode of Unstuck, which if that's the case, welcome. So happy to have you here. But there are a few other episodes that are dedicated to your intuition. First of all, episode 7, way back now, almost a year ago, was my first discussion of the difference between your ego voice and your intuitive voice. So head back and listen to episode 7. And then episode 35, I answered a listener question about how to know for sure that it's your intuition that you're following. So how to really know which voice is guiding you. And I would recommend that. So episode 35, we'll have both linked up in the show notes. Few little reminders quickly. First of all, what is your intuition? As I've already mentioned, I have several different words for it: inner voice, inner being, inner guidance, intuitive sense, intuitive guidance system. I mean, I talk about it in so many different ways. I have so many different titles for it. But really what it is your direct connection to your higher power, to source, to universe. It is that direct path. It's actually like, since we are all pieces of the universe, it is your piece of the universe. It is that universal sense inside of you. It's your inner being. And it is also how we receive that communication with our higher power, with the universe or source or God or whatever you call it. So that is our communication system. I talk a lot about how we are always actively communicating with the universe. And the universe is also always directly communicating back with us. And we can always receive that guidance, that support, that encouragement, that love if we listen to our intuition. And another reminder, how do you know that you're listening to your intuition? It becomes quite easy to know what that voice is when you find it, because you will automatically feel a sense of calm, centeredness. You'll feel grounded. You will feel peaceful. It will just put you at ease. And at the same time, it also feels very all-knowing. It's like, you know the answer. It's definitely right. It's definitely the next step. And while it may be scary, which I talk about a lot, it might feel scary. It might feel a little like you're putting yourself out there. You're out of your comfort zone. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, or that doesn't mean that it's not the right step. It means it's causing you to expand, to grow, to step into who you're meant to be. And your inner being, your intuition, that piece of the universe within you knows that exact step. It knows exactly how to continue your expansion process, which is what we're meant to do here. We should always be expanding and growing and becoming better versions of ourselves and following our passions and following our purpose here while we are on this planet as humans. So it's going to guide you there. It's always going to guide you there. So that's how you know it's your intuition. So you feel that sense of calm and peacefulness, but at the same time are probably going to be taking a step outside your comfort zone. Another way to know that it's your intuition is that it pretty much will always tell you you're okay. It will always remind you that you are safe, you are okay, and you are loved. So a lot of times when I'm chatting it up with my intuition, which I do often, most of the time it's just telling me you're okay. It's just reminding me that I am okay, that I am safe, that all is well, and that all will always be well. And that, again, right there is super calming. And it puts me back into this place of groundedness. So that's how you'll have some clues that it's your intuition, which on the contrary, what I call that other voice, which I've called it in the past, the mean girl voice, that constant chatter, the negative communication within you, that it's just kind of always there buzzing within your head. It's that first voice you hear quite often. It really is the ego voice, as I most commonly call it. And on the contrary, that voice is going to be often very controlling, very fearful, worried, keeping you small, keeping you in your comfort zone, keeping you from making any major moves that could put you in the danger zone or anything like that. It's going to be often a little bit stressed out. It's going to be really worried. It's going to be negative. It's going to be talking directly to your limiting beliefs. And so that's kind of how you'll know. And once you tap into your intuition and hear a little bit from it, then you will very easily know and be able to recognize the difference. And some reminders on how to connect with your intuition. The very first thing is that you need to get that ego voice out of the way. Because as I said, that ego chatter that's often quite negative and controlling and stressed out is going to come first. That's what we hear most often. That's basically, unless you're in a deep meditative state, is pretty much always playing in the background. So a lot of times we can't even hear our inner voice or our intuition because that ego chatter has gotten so loud and has taken over. So especially if you're at the beginning stages of really tapping into your intuition, you're going to probably need to take some time to intentionally quiet that ego voice. My favorite way to do so happens pretty quickly from here. Meditation. Quieting your mind. Tapping into the present moment. Releasing, relaxing, allowing. That's super important. So if you're struggling to really quiet the chatter and tap into intuition, meditation is a must for you, and make it a habit. The more you do it, the easier it will come. The more capable you'll be of really quieting that chatter so you can get to the juicy, good stuff of your intuition. Also, you will be more in tune with your intuition naturally before you fall asleep or just upon waking. Because as we start falling asleep or right when we wake up, our conscious mind, the one with the chatter, the ego chatter, naturally takes a back seat. Naturally kind of almost is put to bed, so to speak, pun intended there, to where our subconscious mind can come through a little deeper. And that's also when our intuition can come up a little louder, simply because that ego is asleep. We'll just say that for ease of conversation here. I love to journal out my ego chatter, especially when it's really loud. And I know my intuition has something to say. Like, for instance, if there's a decision I'm having a really hard time making, I know my intuition knows that right choice. But if I'm going back and forth, then I also know that one of those is actually in alignment with my ego and one is speaking towards my intuition. And in order to figure out which one that is, I journal out my ego chatter. I talk about the fears. I talk about what might happen. I talk about what I should and shouldn't do and what will and won't work and all the stuff that's going on that's basically keeping me stuck and freezing me in my spot to actually making that decision. I get it out. And then from there, I'm almost in that space again where I'm at in meditation, where now that I've gotten it out onto paper, it can kind of relax. And again, it can take a back seat and I can figure out that real, true, all-knowing voice that's still there. And now it's louder. And so when I come back to my journal, take a few deep breaths, come back to my journal, what comes out after that is my intuition. And that's what we're going to work on today. What do we ask after that? After we've gotten that ego to be a little bit quieter, where do we go from there to where we really can hear from our intuition? And then the last thing that I think quite often is used for a lot of people to hear their intuition is like nature. Getting out in nature or even doing a workout, listening to some music, just getting into your zone, getting into that space where you are in this place of a lifted vibration, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's taking a walk with your dog. Maybe it is getting out in nature, sitting on a rock and just getting some fresh air, which I know for a lot of us is hard to do right now with the amount of wildfires going on in this country, in the US, if this is where you are. But what can you do to start raising your vibration, which as your vibration lifts, that ego can kind of silence itself a little bit more and your intuition, again, grows louder. It gets more available to you. So those are just a few ways to connect with your intuition. If you find yourself struggling or you find that your ego voice is still really loud and you're not quite sure which one's which, try those. And the last thing I want to go over quickly before we get into these questions that I'd recommend asking your intuition is what to look for. So keep in mind that while it may come up as words, especially if you are journaling, that's not the only way you're going to hear from your intuition. Sometimes it will come up as an image, just like this flash of a picture of a situation or scenario in your mind. So it comes up as an image or a sound or even like even your other senses, like a taste or a smell. Those are not out of the question either. A lot of times, many, many, many times, it's just a feeling. I think we've all had that intuitive nudge. It's just that feeling that is like, this is right. This is wrong. This is the path. This is not. There's just that sense of knowing. And that is not something to take lightly. So remember to keep all those senses in mind. Nothing is off limits. Be open to receiving your quote unquote downloads in any capacity and recognize that. And also recognize that it may not come right away. So a lot of times, if we are meditating or we're journaling and we have this thing that we really want to know more about, or we want to get a little bit of an intuitive nudge, we want it right then because then that will help with making that decision, or it'll make us feel better, or we'll know how to proceed, we'll know what to expect, but it may not happen right away. There might be a better time for you to get that download, to get that knowing, to get that sense, to get that picture, that image, to get those phrases that will help you. But you just have to remember and know that it's coming. It doesn't have to be right now. And when you let that go of when it needs to come, or what it needs to look like, or your deadline for making a decision, or whatever it might be, when you can let that go and step back and know that it's going to come at the right time, because again, all knowing will always lead you on the right path, will always keep you safe, then you have the ability to relax around it and just wait for it to come. You might ask one of these questions we're about to go over, and then a week later be on a hike and be like, oh, there it is. Or be chopping some vegetables, or be at your kid's soccer game, or who knows what it is. It doesn't really matter where it happens or when it happens, but as long as you're open and in receiving mode and willing to hear it and relaxed about when it comes, then it will come. All right, let's get into these questions. Now, the first thing I want to say, and you will see this very clearly, none of these, and I'm not going to say none of these because there are a few yes/no questions, but most of these, and what I would recommend for you, is to not ask yes or no questions. It's not that your inner voice isn't going to answer, but it's, especially at the beginning when you're still kind of working this intuition muscle, it's going to be a little harder to be able to decipher whether that's your ego saying yes or no, or your intuition saying yes and no. And when it's something that abrupt and that short, and especially if you already have kind of in the back of your mind what you want the answer to be, then it's going to be really easy for that ego voice to get in the way and even disguise itself as the intuition and give you the wrong answer. So there are a few yes/no questions that I'm going to give you to try, but for the most part, stay away from that. So we really, when we're asking for guidance from our intuition, we often want to say, like, is this the best move? And that's going to be really hard to really know if it's coming from your ego or your intuition in something like that. So we want kind of our intuition to help us make decisions, but it's going to get a little sticky and a little not quite as clear, I guess, with those yes/no questions right away. All right, so what can we ask? Let me go through these. Let's see, 7 questions I have for you to ask your intuition. First one, what do I need to know about this situation? So this can be, maybe you're in a situation that doesn't feel very good, or maybe you're looking and kind of thinking about taking a different move or moving out of that situation, or there's a learning experience within that situation, but you don't know what it is. If there's something within your life that doesn't feel 100% all-knowing, ask your intuition, what do I need to know about this? It may be that it's time to move on. It may be that there's a learning experience within that and you can learn from it. There's so much to be uncovered about every situation that we're in, and especially ones that don't feel great. So ask your intuition. Number 2, what emotion is fueling me right now? This one is so good if you're not feeling high vibe. If there's something that you are experiencing that doesn't feel good. And, it might be kind of interesting to be like, well, I already know that I feel scared, or I feel frustrated, or I feel annoyed. But it's interesting to ask your intuition and get confirmation of that, because it might not actually be the case. You might think, yeah, this is frustrating me. But then if you sit down and ask your intuition, what emotion is fueling me right now, you will actually go a little bit deeper, and maybe it is like sadness or loneliness or something else that is under the surface. And when you can get under the surface to your real emotion, again, huge learning opportunity there, even to find out more about your limiting beliefs or your stories, to see what is actually getting you to where on the surface you feel frustrated, but really underneath, you're actually really sad or you're actually really lonely. And you can then heal from there and actually truly heal instead of just working with that frustration and thinking that's it when there's so much more. So again, if you're in this place where you're having these intense emotions or these unwanted emotions, figure out what's really there. Because I would make a guess that it's not what you actually think. There's more to it. And that's when we can really heal. And instead of kind of forcing this higher vibe feeling that doesn't actually work, and then we get back to that same spot, well, it's because that wasn't actually what needed to happen. So give that a try. Number 3, how can I show up as my highest self at this moment? Because that's really the goal of life, is to show up as the highest version of yourself. And a lot of times we don't do that. And it's simply because we don't know what that looks like, or we don't know what that means. We don't even know what our highest version of ourself is. But our intuition does. So if we can get to that point, and again, this is so helpful in a situation where you're just not feeling like it's going well, or it's just not the right thing, or something's up, maybe it's having a conversation with your child, or there's a situation at work where you're in conflict with somebody. There's so many different places where it's like, am I really truly showing up as the highest version of myself? And if I were, what would that look like? Because guess what? What that would look like would resolve that. May not be the situation gets resolved, but within you, it gets resolved. It gets healed. So what does that look like? Ask yourself, how can I show up right now as my highest self? Again, maybe an image, maybe a feeling, maybe words. Be open to all of the above and see what comes up. And then act from there and watch it unfold. Watch the magic unfold. Number 4, what can I do differently here? Again, if there's something that feels off, if there's a decision that needs to be made, if you're stuck in some capacity, like even for instance, if you are still looking to heal your physical body and you've tried a bunch of things and nothing's working, or you're still looking to lose weight, or still looking to make the right amendments to your diet, or whatever it is, what can I do differently here? Doesn't that seem like a really powerful tool to use to figure out what to do for yourself? If you've been listening to me for a while, then you know that I'm all about each person finding their own individual expression of their health and what that looks like for them and their body. And no one's, journey looks the same. So you've got to find out your own journey. And the way to do that is to listen to your intuition. Your inner being knows exactly how to be healed in all aspects of your life. You were not put on this planet to be sick. So it's up to you and your inner being to guide you to your path to wellness. So what can I do differently here will open your eyes to what's best for you based on your intuition. And that's just one example of a way to use that question. So many possibilities here for you. The next one is more of a statement. If you don't have an actual specific situation that you want guidance around from your intuition, just try this and see what comes up. I'm ready and open for guidance. Just say that. Just meditate, get into that place, quiet your ego, and say it out loud, write it in your journal, say it silently, whatever you need to do. I'm ready and open for guidance. And just wait. Just be ready and open for guidance. Just do it and see what comes up. Next, as I mentioned, there are a few yes/no questions that I will allow you to ask your intuition. The first one, do I need to worry about this? Oh, I've used this so much because I'm a natural worrywart. It's something I've been working on for years and years, and I must say I've gotten a lot better. I'm very proud of myself. But when things come up and I start feeling that sense of worry, meditate, journal, get prepared. Do I need to worry about this? Because guess what the answer is going to be? I'm not going to tell you. Try it for yourself. But the answer is going to be good. It's going to make you feel really good. And the next one, yes, no. Am I okay? Am I okay? Because a lot of times what we tend to stress about and worry and fear, all these kind of negative emotions we can have, are just our thoughts, our worries of us not being okay, of something being wrong, of something going wrong, getting into danger, getting out of our comfort zone. And so a lot of times all we need to do is be reminded that we are okay and we will always be okay. So if you want your intuition to do that for you, to be that reminder, I highly recommend it, because what's going to immediately come over you is not only this feeling of security and calm, but also this ability to start letting go and to start moving beyond and to start gaining control of your ego voice. And really, this is the case for all of these. Anytime we can really, really use our intuition, it allows us to step back from that constant mental chatter. And as I mentioned, few things to definitely not ask. Is this the right move? I mean, maybe down the road, if you're super tapped into your intuition and you really have this all dialed in, then yeah, you could probably use that and you would know that that's the right answer. Whatever you hear, you would know it's coming from your inner voice. But for the most part, I tend not to use this, even though I've been doing this work for a long time. It's just is better to squeeze more out of it. Ask these open-ended questions to get more out of your intuition besides just yes or no. And then also same thing with like, should I do this or shouldn't I do this? Those kinds of questions, try to stay away from that. All right, so you know what's coming. Your homework assignment is going to be to actually tap in and get guidance from your intuition. Meditate, journal, ask one of these questions or all of these questions, wait for the answer. And if you want more guidance, if you want to journal it out, which is what I recommend, especially if you have that ego voice, to get out of your head and to quiet down a little bit, I have a blog post on my website, seanminer.com/how-to-journal. You can head over there, be linked in the show notes. The fourth journal technique that I talk about in that blog post is that ego versus intuition journaling practice that I love to do. And I highly recommend if you're really having a hard time knowing what's your ego versus your intuition, or you can't seem to get that ego chatter to quiet down, the best way to do it is to write it out, get it out onto paper. That's when it will quiet itself a little bit, because it's taken the whole step to go from in your head, down your arm, and out onto the paper. All right, so give that a try. Again, seanminer.com/how-to-journal. Head there if you want to do that technique. And other than that, use one of these questions. see what comes up. I'm so excited to hear. Please make sure you send me a message again over on Instagrams where I'm hanging out at Sean Miner, and let me know. Let me know what has come up for you and these questions, whatever your situation is, or if you just want to hear a little bit from your intuition, how did it show up? What did it say? I want to hear it from you. And speaking of, I would love to also hear from you and let me know what you're thinking of the show. If you feel compelled, I would just be so grateful for a review of the show if you are loving it. Getting those 5-star reviews, I think I have like 220 reviews now. These 5-star reviews that come in just blow my mind. I'm so grateful. They mean so much to me and to the time I spend creating this show and to the connections I make with you all. It just means so much. And it means a lot to the future of the show too, and to being able to keep it on air and to keep going with this and to help as many people as possible, which as always is my purpose here and my time here on this planet. And so any words of encouragement that you have to share over there on iTunes would be absolutely amazing. I love every single one of you. Thank you to everyone that already has left a review. Thank you also so much to everyone who shares these episodes with their friends, on their email newsletter, on their Instagram stories or Instagram feed. You have no idea what that means to me. It is so encouraging. It means the world. I cannot thank you enough. And this show and the future of the show and everyone who's finding this show because of your support, it's just incredible. So thank you all so much. And I will see you next week. So until then, take care.